This conference will now be recorded. This conference will now be recorded.
So, okay, till yesterday, a quick recap what we did. So, majorly we learned yesterday the routing, how you can have two components, and then how we can route to a different component from one component, and how to do routing configuration and things like that. So today, what we are going to do, so in the routing, we just saw yesterday moving from one component to other component or moving from one page to other page. So today we'll move from one page to other page. Along with that, we'll pass some data also, and we'll see how the other component receiving the data through routing. So let me run the application which we have created till this point. Cool. Go back to Chrome. So this is the application which we have created till this point, and now we have the navigation bar at the top where home and users to label are there. If you're clicking on the users label, we are going to a different component altogether where we can see the table. But this page doesn't look good because we have not done any style to it. So now let's put some style to this page so that it will look good. So to do that, so I've just put some few styles, so I'm not going to write it. I've already done it. I'll just paste it here, the GitHub component.html. Cool. So if you see nothing else, so we have added few classes called container, and similar way we've done panel, and rest all page each same, and yeah, that's all. Rest all page is same. Only we don't want this. Will we just added few bootstrap classes, otherwise it's all same, so we don't have to worry much. But I think few of the changes are there. GitHub users, GitHub users, GitHub users, yeah. That should be fine. Cool. Save it, go back to browser, and now you can see our page looks good. But the same thing, only the text box I moved to the top. Before, the text box was at the below, and otherwise it's working as it is. So image looks like the variable name is different. It's not working. We'll go back and see what's there in the show image. We have a function called toggle image. We have a toggle image. Okay, so now here the show image, the variable name is there, and we have made it shown image. That's the difference. So let's make it show image. Go back. Now you are seeing the images also. Everything looks good. Cool. And this is same, the two-way binding. Yeah, cool. So everything is working. Now our page also looks good. We added few of the Bootstrap classes. So to understand more on the Bootstrap, you can always go to this website, getbootstrap.com, their documentation, and they have provided all um, styles. What do you want to use? Let's say I want to go to the layout. Then the layout they have mentioned the containers. So you can say div class containers. It will give you things like that container. So similar classes we also have used. So if you want to use panels, you can search it panel. So this is a panel class if you see, and we are using the same panel class so that it will look good. And you so these all things are already there in the Bootstrap. So I'm not going to cover much on the Bootstrap because that's very easy to use it because it's just few classes which is already there. You just have to take those classes and just use it in your application. That's all. If you see the class navbar is also there and it shows how your navbar will look like. So there are a lot of classes and the Bootstrap is responsive. So if you are writing classes in Bootstrap, if you open it in a mobile application or a desktop application, I mean, sorry, if you're opening on a mobile browser or a desktop browser, it will look good because it will handle the form factor of both, and in the both the devices, whether browser view area is more or browser view is less. Yeah, any question? No, okay. Then it will handle automatically, so you don't have to do anything. That's the best part of Bootstrap. So now our application is looking good. Both the screens look close to the real life application. And now what we'll do, the next step, because we want to learn, okay, we want to pass along with the routing few data also, and then the other component should receive it. So what we'll do in this table, if someone clicks on the Angular or jQuery or React community, which are basically your GitHub names, uh, will open a new page, and then we'll have a details about this particular repository. Further details. Okay. Now if you see these are not clickable, so but on this click we want to do that. So we'll do it. So for that we have to create one more component. So let's go and create one more component. And along with creating one component, what we have to do, we need the data. So to get the data, we have to create one more service, and in the service we have to connect with some API. Which API will connect? So there is a API called api.github.com/users/Angular. So this is the API we are going to use, which will give all the details about Angular. If I change it to jQuery, it will give me all data related to jQuery. Okay, so we are going to hit this API. We'll get this data, and then we'll display it on our view. So a couple of things we have to do. Now we have to create a service to connect with this endpoint, and then we have to create a component, and then we have to write routing configuration. And in that routing configuration, our one component will pass some data, the other component will receive. So basically the one component will pass the data on what the user has clicked. So whether the user has clicked on Angular or user has clicked on jQuery or user has clicked on React community, that this component only know. So based on this component, we'll pass the data to other component so that they can get to know, okay, I have to load details about Angular, or I have to load details about jQuery. Cool. So to do that, we'll go back to our code. So in the code, we'll create one more component. So let's do that with CLI. So in the CLI, you guys know it's easy to create component. We'll do that. We'll say ng g c, right? Ng for Angular, G for generate, C for component, and then we'll say inside GitHub, we'll create one more component and we'll name it GitHub repo, because and that component will show all the repositories which is there for a particular GitHub user. So we'll say GitHub/GitHub repo, and that's all. So now you can see a folder got created inside GitHub repo, and then there are 4 files. One is for your class, one is for test, one is HTML, other one is CSS. Good. So our component is ready now, and this component we have to declare it first. Anytime you are creating a component, it has to be registered in module. So we'll go back to our GitHub module, and in the GitHub module you can see this got added automatically. So when you create things from Angular CLI, when you create a new component, it automatically adds that to your module. So you can see I have not done anything. It got added automatically. You can see the GitHub repo component is already part of the declaration array in our GitHub module. Cool. So that part is done. Now the next part is how we have to create a route for this component, right? So to create a route for this component, we'll go to app module.ts, and here we'll create one more route saying path GitHub repo. We'll say the route name, and along with that, now we're saying we'll pass a value also, right? So we'll see that later, and then we'll say when we have to have a GitHub repo as a route, we have to load that GitHub repo component, and because GitHub component is not imported here, we'll import it. It's all done. So we added a path also, but along with the path, if you need, comma is missing, so it's given error, you see, during compilation. It's saying the comma is expected, so that's a good part. So it says what is an error. So here you have to, so you can provide a slash colon, and then you can say user. This is how now we receive, okay, we can pass data along with the route. So this user will be acting as a variable which can hold any data. So now our URL will be basically GitHub dash repo slash, or I can remove the GitHub. I can say the path will be always repo slash user. So anytime my path will be repo slash Angular, I will move to that GitHub repo component. Cool. Okay, so with this, now how we'll pass the data. Now this is how we have created a route where we'll receive the data, but I have to pass the data also, and the data will get passed from our GitHub component, right? So if I go to the GitHub component.ts, not the ts HTML, and in this name someone will click on the name only. So because I have to make it clickable, I'll make it as an anchor tag. Oops, not here. This is the header of table. Yeah, here. So I have to make it as an anchor tag. Inside that, so once I make an anchor tag, it will be clickable. And in the anchor tag, I have to do the same, right? I have to write the property. So what property we have used, if you remember before, for um, routing. So if we are using router link, if you remember our component dot is navbar. Similar way, we'll use router link again, and it will be an array. Inside array, your first property will be your URL name, that will be repo, and your second property will be the value. So the value will be nothing but GitHub username. Cool. So now what I'm doing in the router link, so before we are only passing the first in the array, only one element we are passing, and that element was nothing but we are passing uh, the path name. So now along with the path name, we are passing the value also. So this will be a path and this will be a value. Okay, so we are good. So now, so on click of this, my this component should come up. Now in this component, I have to receive it, right? So three parts of it. Once we did the route configuration. In the route configuration, we'll say what is a path and what will be a variable name, and then from our GitHub component, we are passing it using router link. Now in GitHub repo component, I have to receive it. To receive it, I am dependent on one more class. So I am not using that class. Let me get to know what that class name is. And this not GitHub user component. Yeah. So I have to use a class called activated route and the router. So I'm dependent on that. So let's use activated route and router. Router we don't have to use, we just have to use activated route. So we'll use activated route. So we'll say import activated route from at angular slash route router. So once you import this class, obviously you know in the constructor you need a local reference to that. So we'll create that local reference. You can have underscore like this, the variable name, or you can, so we can differentiate this is our local reference only for that, nothing else. And we want it to be ng on init. So anytime this component gets loaded, you guys know the ng on init will get called. So in the ng on init, now we're trying to receive that value. So let's say we create a variable called user. This dot user is nothing but it's a string. Sorry, it has to be user, and then here I'll say this dot user equal to uh, this dot underscore activated route dot dot snapshot dot params dot get. That's how it is. And then what we have given the name, the user. That was the parameter name, right? In our app module.use. User, yes. Repo/user. Now we're good. Now what we'll do, we'll just print this. So here we'll say repo name is this dot user. Okay, all set. Now you have to see whether our this whatever we did, it's working or not first. So now what we did, we created a new component, and then after creating that new component, we created a route for that component. As we know, this component will also receive a value along with the routing. So what we did, after the in the path we created a variable saying column. So it will always change. It could be repo/angular, repo/jquery, repo/react, anything. So that will be your variable. So your path is not fixed now. Your path is repo/. It could be any variable. So we did that, and whenever we detect this, we'll load GitHub repo component. Now from GitHub component.ts, we are passing that value GitHub component.html. So someone clicks on that GitHub username, we, we are passing. So this is variable, so we don't have to give the string. So we have to pass that name. So now what we're saying, we are saying in the router link, the first one is path and second one is extension of the path, which is basically a variable which will I'm passing GitHub user.name. And now in our component.ts, we imported a class called activated route, and on that activated route, we are trying to receive that user which got passed from GitHub component.ts, and we are storing it in a property called user, and then we are just bind that user to our view so that we can see that got passed or not. Cool. So now we go back to our okay, yeah, that's fine, done. So we go back to our page. Something we have screwed up, we'll go and inspect it. So it's saying some parsing error. So it's saying can't bind router link since it is not a known property. So in the GitHub component.html, it's not detecting router link. It's saying it doesn't know what the router link is. So to do that, we'll see what extra we have done in our app component thing. So it's aware of router link. So we'll go back to our code. We will see app component.ts, app module.ts. So in the app module.ts, we have imported the router module, and in the app component.html, we have used it. And here it's detecting, not giving complaint, but in the GitHub component.html, it's giving problem to router link. Why? I'm not sure why. Let me debug further. So can't bind to router link since it's unknown property of A. So that's why it's failing. Okay. So let's see the code which I have already having. What's the difference here? So maybe I need to import this router module again. GitHub user component.html. Yeah, this is not giving any complaint. What extra I have done here? Nothing. Still, it's not complaining. It's getting what the GitHub user component is. Maybe I will try this. Importing this again in GitHub.module.ts. So what I did, I just tried to import that router module in my GitHub module.ts because that router link is part of router module only. If that works or not. So I go back to it works. So that was the missing piece. So what happened? That router module is only imported for app module, so it was not imported for our GitHub module. So what was happening in the GitHub module? We're using router link. So it was complaining saying it doesn't know what the router link is. I just imported it and it started working. Okay, so we'll close the debug window. Now we'll click on users, and then now you can see now our names are coming as an anchor tag. So we can, it's a clickable, we can click it, and once I click on Angular, you can see the URL name changed to repo/Angular, right? Angular is a variable, and now we can see our entire link is working because we have created this repo name column, the variable, and it's coming Angular. And when I go back and click on jQuery, I can see my URL name got changed to repo/jQuery, and here I'm showing that text jQuery. So that means our GitHub repo component is successfully receiving the value which passed along with URL, the path from GitHub component. So that piece is done. So now what we'll do, we'll take this value. Now we have to create a service and we have to get the data and we have to bind the details about this repository. Like for the jQuery repository, we'll show some more details around the jQuery repository. So to do that, we have to create a service. So let's go back to the code again. Now we'll create a service. So similar way, we'll create the service from our CLI. So we'll write nggs, ng for Angular, g for generate, and s for service. And where we want to generate, we want to generate inside GitHub/GitHub repo. So we don't want to create new folder, so that's why I'm passing extra argument saying --flat, which will not create the folder again. It will just create those files. No, but it created outside of GitHub repo. We want to be inside. Okay, so let's create inside. So I have to say GitHub repo/GitHub repo. So I'm telling now create inside GitHub/GitHub repo and name it as GitHub repo. Now it should be fine. Okay, now it's got created inside GitHub repo. Two files, you can see that. One is GitHub repo service.ts, one is service spec.ts. So in the service.ts, now we have a structure ready. Now we can write further. So in our previous session, if you remember, we have already not previous exactly, previous to previous session, where we have connected with the backend service, got the data and used it. So we can refer that what we have done. So for that service name is GitHub service.ts. So if you see, okay, we means we need to import HTTP client first. So let's import that. Okay, that's done. Okay, Angular common HTTP. It's not from Angular HTTP. Okay, so now we create a local reference of HTTP client. We'll do that. In constructor. Now, as we are passing the local instance of the HTTP clients to the constructor, now it will be available to our repo service instance. So now what we'll do, we'll create a method saying get GitHub repo, or we'll just say get repo details, or get user details. Basically, this is to get user details, the function name we gave it. Then what we have to do, we have to just say this dot HTTP client dot get, and we have to pass that URL, right? What is the URL? So that URL you have to form it. So let's form that URL. Let's say let URL equal to http colon slash slash api dot github.com slash users slash, this is our variable, right? So here it can be Angular, it can be jQuery, anything. Whatever the username will pass it, we'll get that user details. So this we have to receive here. So I have to receive the username over here, which I can pass it over here. Okay, what I did actually, I used the ES6 string creation. So in ES6 with the backtick, you can create a string. So the benefit of backtick is in that you can have a variable also, and that variable value again in ES6 you can have a dollar, and you can do the curly braces, so you will get the value of that variable. So this is a string creation in ES6 style of JavaScript. So with this, what is happened, this user will be your variable. So if you give a curly brace and the dollar, that will be like it will give return you a value. Because you're using that, you have to use this backtick to make string. Because if I don't use backtick, it will consider those everything as normal string value. It will not consider as a variable. Okay, so now we're done. So this URL I have to pass it over here. Cool. So with this, but now with this we can connect with the backend, and once we connect with the backend, we will get the data dot do, and in the dot do we'll get the data, and then we can do a console log data. Cool. So we did this point, so we'll see if things are working for us or not. At least I should able to print those data what I am receiving. So you have to increase always step by step. You should not write all code and then go for debugging it. Then it will be like it will be very hard if somewhere it's big. So it should be incremental. So you always be running your development environment and you just write few code logically and then go and check whether it's working or not. So that's what we did now. Like logically now what we did, we just imported HTTP client and we just provide the URL. Now we'll see whether this is getting called or not. Happening also, but when how it will getting called, it will not get called automatically, right? Someone has to call it. So in the GitHub repo component I have to call that. So what we'll do, the get to GitHub repo service, first we have to see whatever this repo service we've created, that has been registered in Angular module or not, basically the GitHub module in this case. So if you see, that's the best part. Whenever you create some services, it automatically, okay, here it's not added, so I have to add that. GitHub repo services in our GitHub module.ts. Guys, just a minute, one call. Yeah, sorry about it. So I have to put a provider and then I have to import it. Okay, all done, cool. So now I provide, I have registered that GitHub repo service which we created, and now that repo service I have to import in my GitHub repo component, right? And I have to create a local instance for that. So then only my component can call the service to give me the data, right? So we'll do that. Again, I need to import this. Done. And now in ng on init, I can call it. So I'll say this dot GitHub repo service dot get user details, and I need to pass this dot user. That's what it was complaining. So it was complaining it expect one argument, but it didn't get any. So that's why that red bar is coming. When I pass the argument, it's happy. Okay, so now all done. So now whenever my component will get loaded, it will call the get user details of GitHub repo service, and in the GitHub repo service, in the get user details will pass the user, and that user will pass to the HTTP client get, and then obviously we should get some data. Okay, we'll save it. We'll go back to our browser. Okay, and we'll go to our users page, and let's click on jQuery. Okay, let's open the inspect tab so that we can see whether anything is coming on console or not. And let's click on jQuery. Nothing is happening, no logs. We'll see the network and we'll try to see it again if any call is going or not. So interestingly, no call is happening. Why to do that? We can debug. So we'll go to our source and we'll open that GitHub repo component. and we'll put a breakpoint over here, and then we'll reload this page. The breakpoint got hit. Then what we'll do, we'll go inside that function. Okay, cool. Okay, this guy is getting called, but why it's not coming in the network tab, I don't know. Okay, so URL also is fine, http://user/jQuery. Okay, the call didn't happen. So we'll go and find out what's wrong with our code. We'll go to our Visual Studio Code and we'll see what we have already done before. We're using same this.http client.get. We're passing the same URL, but nothing is happening. We'll also change this.http client. Get.url.b. I'm not finding anything suspicious apart from this import statement. Everything looks good. It doesn't give us any error also. I don't know.
Can you put a breakpoint?
Yeah, I've already put a breakpoint, so that's what I'm debugging. Okay. This also looks fine. Okay, let's put a breakpoint again. Come back from users. I will click on Angular. See it over here. It detects this function. It goes inside that function. Then it calls this function http get URL, which is this is fine. So this is the URL. So let me take this guy and if it hit. I'm obviously getting some data. There is no issue with that. But here it's not working.
So console.log is not logging the data. That's the issue.
It's not even calling. So in the network tab,
Oh,
I'm not able to see any
okay,
call.
yeah. It's not even making a call to that API.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to understand that because I'm not seeing any call being went. Yeah. Ideally, that call has to be triggered, which is not happening. So I'm debugging that. This is very strange. It has to be.
We can do a catch there for get.
Yeah, so well, I'm trying to add catch, but the call itself is not happening. We'll see
Oh,
what
okay.
catch. So let's catch it. Thinking if anything we can catch. So the catch. So I'm just adding this value. So only thing I might miss, it has to be HTTPS, and then the function. So I have to create an observable. So maybe I am missing this return. Say okay, let's make it clean. Let's say this has to return an observable of type any, then it will return this, and then we'll say it has to return an observable dot throw dot dot the same. I have a handler method. This is HTTP response. I can import it, and then I'll have this catch this. So now I return a catch also similar way. So what I did a catch and I wrote a function which will get executed whenever your catch will happen, and this function will receive all the HTTP error response if anything happening, and I am doing that throw again. And this is an observable, so I say this function will return observable. So now I'm returning this. So now let's save it, and we'll see if anything wrong happening. So we'll go back to our code. For now, we'll just remove the breakpoint. We'll go back to our home screen. We'll load the application, and we'll go to the users. So we'll hit on Angular. Boom. Nothing is happening. So we are not getting any console error also. That's actually making me strange.
Excuse me. So for the network, so how can I just display the name table, bootstrap, inline, polyfill, styles, vendor?
Okay, how this are coming?
Yeah, it's for the network.
Okay, so network, why it's coming, because this so any JavaScript files browser actually downloads it. So first when you hit any URL, it's trying to load the HTML page. So if you see the first URL it's trying to load is our home.
Oh, I know.
If you see the
Yeah,
response here.
I mean, how can I display this table? I don't know how can I display this table.
No, these are not tables. These are JavaScript files.
But
So if you see, if you open it, these are JavaScript files. So your JavaScript for first time when you want to run any application, so what are the dependencies are there? These JavaScript files are dependencies to run your application, and that JavaScript file obviously hosted in some server. So browser has to download that first, then only it can read that. So that's why
okay.
you can see those in the network tab. So it's downloading those JavaScript files, what it needs to run the application, and then only it's reading those and performing all the action.
Oh, okay. But how can I mean how can I display? How can I set up these things that comes out? I just I click the network, but only display the hit. The windows are to reload and capture film strip, but nothing else.
So you have
My
to see,
had
so
a
you have to
data URL.
you have to check whether you have clicked all or not. So if you say all, it will display everything.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah. So if you just say XHR, it will just show XHR, JS, it will just show JS. All, everything will show.
Okay.
Okay, just give me moments. Yeah, so what I'll do now, I don't want to spend time. Obviously, I can debug and fix it, but I'll do that now because currently I'm not running. So what I'll do, the application which is already I've developed, maybe I can run that and see if it's working on it. Ideally, it should work because I'm not seeing any issue in my code as of now. Like it should not work because it's not throwing any error also in the console. So that's even making it strange why it's not working. But if I see my already working code, it's exactly the same code. So okay, so what I'll do, I'll open this application and we'll see if it's running. I'll run from there and if it's working or not. So I'm just paused that for a moment. I'm searching for that application which already developed. Or what I can do, at least before, I can just rerun the server. If everything goes into the server again. So even I'm debugging now the Angular HTTP JS file. There also it's reaching fine, but from somewhere the exception is happening. Inside there, it's not even hitting our catch block. So let's try to put a breakpoint in our catch block also. See, it's not even coming to catch. So that's actually making me even strange. It's giving us strange. So let's just have catch, nothing else. This dot HTTP client dot or anything else. There should not be any issues. Alright, so something is wrong, obviously. So I will try to see if that existing thing is working for me or not. Just give me a moment. Sorry for this hiccup. Okay, so I opened an application which already the similar code is there. So I go back there. Similar, there is app repo service is there. Similar URL is there. Now we'll run this guy in gserve. Okay, so we'll go back to our Chrome and we'll get this. Similar application, GitHub users, and then I click on Angular. Okay, it's working here. So if you go to the inspect tab, network calls, if I go back, hit on Angular, you can see this got called. Angular repos get called. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. I don't know what's wrong with that app. Okay, let me try to run that again. If not, then we'll proceed with what we have already developed, and I'll debug and I'll update you guys what's went wrong. Okay, let's not exactly sure what is going wrong. So what we'll do, we'll proceed with what I have already developed, and we will see how it's working over there. And then I'll debug it on my free time, and then I'll let you know what went wrong. Okay, so in this, if you see, which I have already developed, so here a bit naming is different. Same GitHub user repo service is there. So similar thing is happening. We are doing over here. So what I'm doing same here, GitHub component.html. If you see, I'm clicking on this GitHub username. Similar thing is there. And then this component is coming into picture where here the naming is GitHub user repo. There we have just named GitHub repo. So it's coming to the component.ts file, and in the component.ts file we are calling the same method GitHub user repo of service, and then we are going to that GitHub repo service, and similar way we have created a URL saying github.com user/name. Here we have done one level extra. We are saying name/repos. So we'll directly get all the repositories of that username. So this is another URL. So there we are just using till this point, and you're saying /repos, and then we are getting all the repositories. And once you're getting all the repositories, then we are binding it in a. That's all has done till this point. And if we run this app, ngserve, and so if you asking, I think Charles was asking how come these JS files are showing in network. So if you see our application, when compile, after that compile, it generates these 5 files. If you see in the compile, it's showing over here inline bundle.js, main bundle.js, polyfill bundle.js, style bundle.js, vendor. So now our application is dependent on these 5 files. So whenever our application gets loaded, this file will get loaded first, then only our application can understand what it has to do next. Okay, so now we go back to our browser, and if we hit here, the similar thing, similar breakpoint we'll see, and how it's working, we'll see that. So what I'll do, I'll open that GitHub user repo component.ts. See, we'll hit a breakpoint over here. We'll go to GitHub users list. We'll click on Angular, and you can see this got hit a breakpoint. We go inside that similar code. We are going here, and then GitHub URL is coming over here. We're passing that, and now if I put a breakpoint inside to or catch, basically I am doing a console log inside being repo data received. So if I go to the console, in the console I can see repo data received. So I got those repo. So this is how now you can integrate with another service. Now you can pass data from one component to other component. When that component gets loaded, you can do a service call, get that data, and again bind it to view. Now you can see we have done a view binding also. So whatever the repository informations we are getting from backend service, we did a binding to our view, so that you can see all the repositories of coming Angular, switching repos of Angular, and all the repositories we can see over here. So if we go back to code again, so you can see, so I have subscribed to it, and once, so if you connect with the backend service, we have written an observable. So in the repo service.cs, what we have written, we written an observable. I explained in my previous session what an observable is. Observable works in a emit and subscribe methodology. So a function which actually connecting to a backend service is an observable. So it is returning an observable. So anyone can subscribe to that observable, and once it emits some data, the guy who has subscribed for it, it will receive the data. That's how it's working. So get because when you connect with backend API, it's asynchronous. It's not synchronous way of doing things, right? Because as soon as you hit the backend API, you will not get the response. You might receive a response after a few milliseconds or second, but JavaScript execution happens in fraction of millisecond. So JavaScript will not wait there. It will just execute that code and it will go on. But because it's an observable, it will immediately return. And so if you see this return statement, this return immediately will not return you the data from this function. It will return you an observable object. And on that object, what our component.ts is doing, it's subscribing it. So that's why I'm calling this and saying dot subscribe. And on the dot subscribe, whenever that observable emits the data, the first function which we, so this dot subscribe is again a function. You can pass multiple functions to it. So first function is our function which supposed to receive the data, and second function will receive the error. So in that case, what is happening when you subscribe to it, and anytime that observable emits the data, a repo function will get executed, and that's how you will get all the data which has been sent by that observable method. So this is what the observable pattern is. You will have one guy who will subscribe to another guy. When that guy will emit the data, you will receive the data. That's the reactive programming pattern. So this subscribe and observe method is part of RxJS library, and RxJS library is all for reactive asynchronous programming. And AngularJS uses that library to do that. Even now the Java it also doing reactive programming. So in Java it also, there is something called RxJava, which helps to do this kind of observable and subscribe pattern of programming. Okay, with this, one more thing we have done. So let's say on that application, if I go back to Chrome again, I'll close this window. You see there is a back button is there. So once I click on this back button, it's going back to the previous screen. So basically it's changing the route, right? So as of now, we have seen only we have put capability changing the route in HTML. In HTML, we have used an attribute called router link. By clicking on that, we have changed the path, and because the path is changed, my new components gets loaded. But here we are doing the same in the class file. So how to do that? Let's go back to our code. So you can, so we have already imported the router module. So in the router module, there is something called navigate method. So you just have to write a function, and that function you can attach to our on-click event, right? How we have done before also. So if you go to the component.html, if you see click, okay, you can see here click, the back button on the click. It's calling on back line number 5, and this on back is getting called when I'm clicking that back button. This is the value is back, and once I'm clicking on that, what is happening, this back is getting called, and then I'm saying this dot router dot navigate back to, I'm providing the path, which path I want to navigate back to. So I'm saying GitHub users, that is basically user. So that's why it's navigating back to one more component. So this is where in the you can do that in your class also. So how to navigate? So the router class helps to do that. So router class is having a method navigate, and that navigate expects path name to go back to there. So this is again how you use routing in your class. So with that, what else? So with that, I think we have covered. Now we should have a solid understanding how to create component, because now we have created multiple components. Now we have almost created 3 components. We have home component, we have GitHub component, we have GitHub repo components, and now we have, okay, so I'll explain here more what we're doing. So we're receiving all the repositories, and similar way we have used our ng-for, and we are looping through all the repositories which we have received, and we are displaying that in view. So this is pretty simple. So same thing we are doing how we have done in our GitHub page, where we're receiving all the usernames, and we are parsing through that and showing all the usernames in table. Similar way here we have received all the repository names. So if you see how it looks, so if you see that data is quite big. So if we go back to Chrome, and if I say angular/repo, what happened? Repos, okay, the name is repos. Okay, you see the data, how big the data is. So what this URL is giving, this URL is giving repositories of all the repository, or basically top 30 repositories of Angular. So this we are hitting in the application what we are showing. So this is all we're displaying. So when I click on Angular, behind the scene we are hitting that URL, we are getting all those repositories and we're displaying few information. The repository names, how many forks has happened, how many open issues are there, how many watchers are there, and what is the language of that repository. So this is what we are showing over here. And now if you see, this looks almost a professional app. So this is basically, you can say it's a GitHub app by which you can see all the repositories of any GitHub user. So if you click on the GitHub users, I'm listing down 3 for now. Even you can add anything. So this functionality I have not shown to you. So if I click on Angular, I get all the repositories of Angular user. Similar way, if I click on jQuery, I can see all the repositories of jQuery. So this is almost close to real life application. This is a kind of GitHub viewer app we have built it, by which you can see all the repositories of any GitHub user. So I'll show you one more thing for nostrils. Here we can add the user also. So you can see as my name came up, and when I click on that, I should see all the repositories. Okay, something went wrong, maybe. I don't know. So this also I have done it. So this I have not shown you how I'm showing. Oops, something went wrong. Please try. So at least 4 characters, all these checks are there. So I'll show all the validation, how we do in Angular, the HTML validation, how to show error and things like that. That will be part of our coming sessions, how we do HTML validation, things like that. And now after the session, we'll talk about how we can create a custom pipe, how we can create custom directive, and more details around component communication, how two component can communicate with each other, how a parent component can communicate with child component. So these are all things which we are going to learn in our next session. But as of today, you should be good about how to create component, how to set up routing, how to write Angular services, how to connect with backend API. So those are we have, and how to do binding, what are attribute binding, what are event binding, structure binding, ng for ngif, things like that. So with this, that's all what I have to say for the day. So if any questions, any doubts, anything, you can ask. You're good? No doubts? Are you guys got all the videos, recordings, everything?
Yes, I've got all the videos.
Okay, good.
Let me check.
How you feeling till this point, Angular? You guys are good, or things are still not very clear, or things are clear? Any feedback, anything, so that I can incorporate that in upcoming classes.
So till now, how many videos for
You
5
should
videos,
have
right?
you should have 6 by that time, by now, I think. Right? This is our 7th session, I guess.
I don't know how to see. I just only went the day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5. I don't have day 6 and day 7.
Day 7 is anyway today, so day 6, I'm not sure whether Vamshi has sent it or not, but I sent a URL where you can see it and download it. Yesterday only I sent it, right? Nitin, I
Yeah,
think you should have that.
yeah, I got it.
Yeah, so I sent to
Uh,
Charles and Swan also. I don't have Swati's.
okay, I don't have that one. Day 6.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, bye bye.